Welcome back to Corbin AI, where I am showing you how to start leveraging artificial intelligence in your personal or your business life. Now, this video is going to be quite an in-depth video on a complex topic, but once you understand how to do this, you're going to be able to start leveraging artificial intelligence more effectively when it comes to lead interaction, customer interaction, any type of context that you have to deal with another individual in business. You're going to learn how to essentially train its data based off past interactions. Now, essentially, to clarify this a little bit more, we're going to learn how to use one of Zapier's features called Zapier Tables to create a database based off customers' interactions with the company. Therefore, for future interactions with the company, we have that data to use to better proctor our responses. Now, the purpose of making this video is a big request that I get a lot of the times is more personalized marketing experiences, more personalized customer experiences, more personalized lead experiences. And what I'm about to show you, this process can be applied across these. And essentially, you're going to be able to start leveraging more effective prompt usage, more effective AI usage, and much, much more. Furthermore, what I'm about to show you can be applied to many other platforms such as BotPress, VoiceFlow, and stuff of that nature. This specific tutorial is going to really show you how to leverage it in automations. So when you do email campaigns, when you do text marketing campaigns, when you're trying to choose the correct marketing campaign for XYZ reason, you know who to target, why to target, you're building profiles on these customers that interact with your business, and so much more. So let's go ahead and jump into today's video. Make sure to leave a like for the value as I'm showing you stuff that is within our industry and it's going to be very powerful. So to start off, the way we're going to showcase and show leveraging this is we're going to fill out one of our forms here at WebCafe AI, where essentially we have businesses fill out this form due to the fact that we currently have a queue for automations to be built out on our backend. But for now, we're going to go ahead and use this form as the data, but let's first set up stage one in building up a effective profiling of an underlying lead or customer. Stage one in this context is we're going to use Zapier Tables. So Zapier Tables is going to be our database. And if you're familiar with other softwares like Firebase, these are ways that we store data that are specific to a user's identification points. And in this context, our way of identifying a user and their data associated with that user will be their email. So we're going to go ahead and just create a new table here. And we're just going to call this table showcase data and personalize interactions. So the end goal of this tutorial is really to show you how to personalize interactions, how to proctor better interactions. I mean, you can use this data for whatever the context may be. So we're going to go ahead and create this table here. And essentially, I am going to show you two ways you can approach this table. The first way is going to be much more fixed text oriented. The second way is going to have a lot more AI integrated with it. So first off, the first step that I need to do essentially is I'm going to go ahead and replace these field titles for the underlying form. So this is going to be the initial way of me receiving data for this individual. There is plenty of other ways you can receive data for an individual, but for this context, we're going to use this form. One thing I want to point out, look at tables as a more interactive Google Sheets. Look at tables as a more interactive database like Firebase. This is going to be a very effective tool that you can use in plenty of use cases. So for our use case, let's go ahead and start filling in our relevant information. So we're going to start with an email here. I'm actually going to put that as field 2 here. I'm going to put in the name here, so then we can have the individual's name. And we're going to go ahead and for this context, I'm going to go ahead and add the questions. So I'm going to do this, questions here, and I'm going to spread this out here. And then I'm going to add a new field here. I'm going to do a text field again, add this question, and I'm just going to do a little bit brief because we don't need the entire question, right? So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to create here, and then I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit more brief. So essentially what I'm doing here is this is maybe a lead form that you use in your business. This may be some context where maybe it's an email that's coming in from a business. So maybe the individual doesn't have a profile created yet in this database. So you can use it in that context. So for this context though, we're going to assume that we're creating our initial profile for the individual through this lead form. So I'm going to go ahead and do what actions. Okay. Add another column here. I'm going to go ahead and fill this out. Now, one thing I have to do real quick is I have to make sure that we are using the correct selection for field type. So for this, I'm going to do long text as these are big responses. And let me go ahead and edit this as well to long text. And then for the email, I'm going to have to make this an email field. So I'm going to go and do this, edit field. And we should see a field that says email, perfect. And as you see, there's a ton of different options of what you want to do here. So I'm going to keep this as short as we don't need any other information with currency, number, checkbox, email, phone number, link, and so on. From here though, as you see, we got all this information. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to add one other field here. I'm going to call it AI summarize. And, this may be called, actually, let's go ahead and just take it one step further here. We're going to do AI profile. So do AI profile, and then you'll see how we can use this later on. So we're going to do long text here, and I'm going to go ahead and just, add a save here. And then this should be all the relevant information that we care about for our specific individual and the database we're creating around our individual. Okay, so now that we have that information, I'm going to go ahead and fill out this form here. If you want to fill out this form yourself, go ahead and check out our link tree here. As we have it as request automation, or go to our marketplace and request it there. So I'm going to go ahead and fill out this form here real quick. Put in our name here, let's say Tim Adams, and then let's go ahead and fill in this real quick. I went ahead and just used some ChatGPT copy, so let me go ahead and grab that real quick. So for this specific event here, I just essentially asked it to use all of Google's apps, right? So let's go ahead and enter the information here. And essentially the process that's being automated here is dealing with new hires. So then we can go ahead and just input the information here. As you see, send a welcome, assign training material, notify team, feedback form. Then we do list of all softwares. This might be a lot here, but whatever you are filling out, when you fill out this form, make sure to give as much information as possible. And as you see here, this is going to be the identification points of this individual. And then we can go ahead and just say we found a search engine, and then we go ahead and hit submit. There you go, response has been recorded. And let's go ahead and jump over to Zapier and build out automation to build a profile around this individual. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a new Zapier. If you wanna know what all those apps were, that's all the tutorials we've done on this channel. We've done a ton of tutorials. We're gonna go ahead and just call this Zap Profile Maker. Now, the initial trigger could be anything. So in this context, it's a Google form. Your context may be whatever your CRM is. Your context may be whatever an email coming in, and then you basically grab the data from the email, create a profile based off that. For our context, we're just going to use a Google form. We're going to say new form response, hit continue here. We're going to choose our account, which is going to be our main account here. Hit continue, and then I'm going to go ahead and choose our form, test this trigger. And as you see here, I'm going to grab the information that we just inputted here. I'm going to say continue with selected records. So let's go ahead and show both ways that we can apply this. We're going to use tables here. And we're going to say create a record. We're going to hit continue. And then we're going to choose our table to showcase data. And as you see, all the relevant information that we just created for the rows shows up here. So this is very simple. This is very much just, input and drop here. So I'm going to go ahead and find the individual's name. If I can find it, there we go. Your name, email. So email is probably going to be the most important thing out of all these, but let's go ahead and just add everything else. What is your main business operational problem? Okay, this is a response here. What is a specific action or event? Okay, let's go ahead and do that right here. And let's go ahead and do what are the actions. And let's go ahead and actually, there may be a multiple row here that we don't need. Actually, it is this one right here. What actions you want to take event. And then obviously list all softwares is list all softwares. And then as you see here, we have AI profile. So let's go ahead and add a block before that. We're going to add ChatGPT here. Now, what you can do, and you can probably check out a lot of my other tutorials here, is in theory, the data coming in, we could itemize and structure with ChatGPT. For this context, we are just going to do simply a conversation. We're going to continue here, and then we're going to input the relevant data here. So we're going to say, based off this customer's or potential lead profile, please, we're going to go ahead and just do context here. Context, and this would be whatever context you are. So we are an AI agency that provides automation solutions. So now ChatGPT knows the context of this lead, and then we're going to say based off this potential profile, we're going to do semicolon, we're going to say name, and we're going to do all the relevant questions, relevant information provided. So I could, in theory, give the question, the response, question, response. But for this, I can just get away with just basically saying the entire thing. So I can do relevant information, and then I'm going to go ahead and put in this, and this. And I'm going to say generate a summary of what the lead is requesting. Now, in theory, this is going to be whatever context you want to identify that is important for you for the specific lead. For this, is just generating the summary of what the leader is requesting. I could up this to GPT 3.5 16K. So do that in the context that it's a lot of data you're putting here. For this though, this should be sufficient enough for GPT-4. And this should give us a good answer here. If not, we can go ahead and go down to 3.56 in K. We're going to say output lead, hit continue here, and then let's test this action. So the output wasn't perfect. Essentially, it thought the context was that this was an AI agency reaching out to us without realizing we are the AI agency. If I can speak, we're going to say we are an AI agency that provides automation solutions. We just received a lead, a form response from a potential lead. I'm going to do period here. Sometimes you need a little bit more context. And then we're going to go ahead and basically, because of the fact that I've identified that potential lead is what we received it from, we're going to say based off this potential lead information. So it references the variable that we've identified here. So we're going to say based off this potential lead information. And then this should be sufficient. I didn't even provide a name, so that was my bad. Do that. And then let's go ahead and see what it does. We're going to go ahead and clear our memory key here and try again. So I'm going to continue and retest this step. All right, so here is our new response. We got the lead, Tim Adams, is hoping to automate his company's onboarding process due to it currently being manual, long, winding, and occasionally results in missteps or delays. The expected automation should begin every time the HR department adds a new member to their new hires Google Sheet, and then proceeds giving me a nice little outline from 1 through 6, essentially what is the context between this lead. So what we can do from here is we can grab that output, we can put it in the AI profile here. Maybe I want to rename that AI notes. We're going to go ahead and put the reply there, and we're going to continue. And let's go ahead and test this step and see what it looks like in Zapier tables. And as you see here, we got our relevant information. So we got Tim Adams, so we got the email, we got the answers to the questions that we could use later in future automations. And then if you come over here, we got the entire AI profile. Now, the first thing you might be asking yourself is, great, I can't really read this information. So all you got to do is double click it and you get more information. Don't worry, when you use it in Flow, that's not, all you're doing is trying to grab the data, right? So it's not too important if you can't read it on the surface. As you see here, though, we got our fixed data. We also got the potential for AI-oriented data. Let's go ahead and translate this into an actual potential flow that we could use in theory if we wanted to do so. So what's great about Zapier is that we're able to integrate, as you may already know, with all 5,000 apps. So let's say whatever our trigger is, whatever we want to grab and base our profile incurs. Maybe we want to add more ChatGPT blocks to format this data better. But from here, we have our identifying variable of who our lead is or who our customer is. So we know it's the name, but the most important variable out of all of this is going to be the email. This is the email we're going to be able to associate and come up and basically call upon in future flows when we want to grab data. So let me go ahead and build out an example flow here and kind of showcase what I mean by this. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to create a new Zapier, and I'm going to go ahead and create this, call this Zap, email coming in. This could be used across context, but essentially I want to show you how to identify when a potential flow that's occurring in your process, in your marketing, in your campaigns, whatever it may be, when this individual email comes up, how you can start leveraging AI more effectively and start leveraging your processes more effectively so it's more personalized rather than broad. So we're going to say email coming in. And then for me, I'm going to go ahead and just send a test email to our main account here from that email that we just identified here. So in this context, we're dealing with an email coming in. Your context may be, which marketing campaign do I send to an individual due to the fact of their contextual data that we know about the individual from the table. For here, though, we're going to go ahead and do Gmail. And we're just going to do new email in inbox. We're going to do new email here. I'm going to choose our main account here and hit continue. And then we're going to choose our inbox. And then I'm going to go ahead and test this and find the specific email I just sent from our courses. So here's our specific email here. Hey, just fill out the form. Wondering if I could get more information. Best regards, Tim Adams. Or I guess I misspelled it to Time Adams. But as you see here, we got delivered to, and then let's go ahead and just say continue with selected record so we can see all the relevant information we receive from that. So knowing that we are dealing with a possible situation here where we could find their record, let's go ahead and first identify that. So we're going to do a tables block here, and we're going to say find or create record. And we're going to continue here. We're going to do our table ID. There is a filter count here, so basically we could identify more specific niche down. But the thing is that since we're using email as the way to identify the record, we don't have to worry about this unless in some crazy way someone has the exact and identical email, which is not possible. So the lookup field here would just be the email. We're going to hit continue here. So for the lookup value, essentially this is how we identify whether the email and the record exist or not. So we got the email is exactly, and then we're going to be finding the sender's email. So from email, which would be the courses, right? So this was the email that filled out the Google form that we grabbed the data from, pushed it to our tables. Now we're going to go ahead and see if the record exists or not. We're going to hit continue here. We're going to test this step. And as you see here, we have an incoming email. We are going to first identify whether or not we have data on this individual or not. If we have data on this individual, we're going to go ahead and proceed with this. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit more complex. Let's say in theory, because of the fact that maybe we don't have access to this individual's data yet, and there may be a brand new lead, whatever the context may be, let's actually make this a little bit more advanced here. We're going to add a paths here. And essentially, we're going to go down two separate directions depending on whether we have data on that individual or not, or they're a fresh lead. So knowing that essentially there is a possibility that there was a found, whether the data shows up or not, right? We're going to use this to our advantage. So we're going to go ahead and rename this to found data. And then we're going to say did not find data. Okay, so then we're going to do a path rule here. We're going to say only continue if then we're going to say Zap search was found status exactly matches true. So if we find the individual's data in that table, then we can continue with this flow. Now, if the did not find the individual's data, so we're going to do Zap found status exactly matches false, then we would continue down this flow. So here is a great opportunity for you to essentially add gut checks throughout all your automations when you start integrating this, right? So in this context, what we can do is that if the individual, so in this context, an incoming email wasn't found in our tables, we could set up a flow here where essentially we would parse the data in that email. We would create a record for that individual for that specific context of your business and really starting to, get more data and make more data-based decisions. But in our context, we have the data, we found the data. So let's go ahead and proceed with the data. We're gonna go ahead and use the ChatGPT block here. And what's great about this is now that we called upon this and we know this identifier is their email, we can essentially choose whatever data that we have about that individual up to this point and, format the way we proceed up to this point with the data we have. So for example, let's say we want to create a draft email based off the data that we already have on this individual. We're going to say we have data on this potential lead. We're going to do parentheses here, and then the data that I'm going to use in this context is just going to be the AI profile, and then we're going to say generate a. You know what? I'm going to make this a little bit different. Instead of just generating a pseudo draft, pseudo subject, let's go ahead and say generate in 3 sentences relevant information I should know before responding. So let's say we want to add a little bit more discretion to our flow here. So let's say this email comes in, we have like 20, 30, 50 potential clients that we know are in this database, but we don't want to go back, search the email, find this specific information. Let's have ChatGPT do that for us. I'm going to opt in for the higher GPT 16K. So if we want to provide more data on that potential lead, like the other information we had on the table, you can start doing that. We're going to say, give me some. And I guess the purpose of this would be essentially to give me a summary of the individual before I decide to respond to them so that my response is more personalized rather than just me, one, having to search through our table, two, not realizing that this individual has already gone through a flow that exists in our business. Therefore, maybe the individual that's talking to you feels like, okay, this person's not even looking at, everything I've done for you so far, right? So here we go. We got this nice little paragraph. So essentially, before sending any information to Tim Adams, it is important to understand that his company's onboarding process is currently manual and prone to errors. Tim wants to automate this process using different Google Workspace, so on and so on. The automation should include setting up a new employee actions. So this gives us a brief overview of this individual. So what we can do from here is, maybe you send this in a Slack channel, maybe you send this through one of your CRMs, or, you set it up as create a draft. So we know that this individual just comes with the email here, and we can go ahead and just say, we can put in their names or their subject line. We can do subject line, response. And then essentially I can put in the body here. We just do body plain because at the end of the day, we're just trying to get context on this individual. before sending. And then if you have a signature, add your signature. If you typically add attachments, you can add attachments here. But now we can go ahead and set this up as a draft. And essentially what will happen is when a individual comes in, sends us an email, and we have data on that individual, and it says, yes, we have found their data in the record. Now we can go ahead and summarize that data and push it into a draft so we know when we respond to that person, we have contextualized who that person is. If they don't have a current record, we'll go ahead and create a record, and we can use ChatGPT here to parse the data here to create a relevant record, and then use that record in the future for future flows and future automations. Everything I just described there can be pushed to a ton of different contexts. Everything I just described there is used in SaaS platforms such as Firebase. Firebase is a big one. Firebase is where we store data on an individual, and we usually have a unique identifier that's provided by Firebase. In this context, we're using the email as a unique identifier because no one else would have that underlying email, right? Two people can't have the same email. That being said, everything I just showed you here can be applied to a ton of different use cases. This could be applied to maybe building out a data storage of essentially people that go through your bot press, people that go through your voice flow, send a webhook, bring them into here. Now we have data on that person. We know this person's talked to our bot press before. We know this person's talked to our chat bot before. This could be pushed to other situations. Maybe we set up a flow where based off the information we have on this individual and we have 3 potential automated marketing campaigns we could send to this individual, which one, based off AI's discretion, would be the most effective marketing campaign to send. Stuff of this nature. But I wanted to show you this real quick because I feel like one of the bigger requests that we've gotten here at WebCafe AI is more personalized and recommendations based off AI's inference, because right now a lot of that process is manual. A lot of that process requires input. With this and using this tool, now essentially we can use an individual's email as a unique identifier and essentially associate all the data that they've ever pushed through in any of our operations or any of our flows, and we can start building a profile on that individual. Therefore, the more data you have on that person, the better decisions you can make of that person, the better products and services you can offer that person, and stuff of this nature. So if you feel like you found value in this video, make sure to give a like. It's completely free and it helps us here at Corbin AI. If you were interested and you really like this content, make sure to check out the playlist and at the end of this video, if I can speak, as we're diving in depth, essentially how to leverage AI in automation softwares and Zapier and stuff of this nature. But without further ado, make sure to subscribe for daily artificial intelligence content, and I'll see you in the next video.
Thanks for tuning in. And yes, surprise, I'm an AI avatar. Make sure to explore more here at Corbin AI, where we demystify AI for your personal and business life. Until next time.